Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Ultimate Spider-Man issue 11 by Jonathan Hickman, David Messina and Matt Wilson. Spider-Man's first year of Spider-Manning is coming quickly to a close as Pete is finding things a little bit different now as he is having trouble getting in contact with Harry, whom last issue we saw had his identity found out by Ben and Jonah, and he hasn't seemed to have taken that very easily, as evidenced in that issue where he actually thought about killing both Ben and Jonah, if for just a moment. Pete tries to track down his friend and begrudgingly calls Octavius, who hasn't heard from him either, although Otto isn't really someone I would outwardly trust, especially after everything we've seen him do, like desperately trying to get the Pictotech suit that Pete had, which he ended up getting anyway, and now he is all in on this whole AI side of the costumes and relying on that, where Peter was completely against it, which is why he's just wearing a normal spandex costume now. So he's not someone you would just outrightly trust. But Peter has very little options and he asks him to track down Harry's suit since the tracker is still inside the suit. But Peter is caught away from his talk with Otto before he can find Harry's location thanks to the demons robbing a bank. Up until now, Spider-Man hasn't really done like proper superheroing. We have seen things that he has done, but it's usually been off-panel and referenced in like a paper or something in the background of a scene. So this is Hickman getting to write the quippy, fast-talking Spider-Man really for the first time, and it's just great as he busts into the bank, taking down some of the demon goons before his non-stop banter kicks in and even annoys some of the hostages who want him to just shut up so he won't get them killed. The demons are thrown off by the banter and Spider-Man is able to take them down quick, but the woman who scolded Spider-Man earlier for his banter is quickly taken hostage though, but Spider-Man's quick reflexes web up the goon and even the woman, stopping her from her constant bickering of what he's saying. Peter also finally gets to meet the next member of the Sinister Six as Mr. Negative and his thugs emerge from the bank vault with the money. Martin isn't too pleased with Spider-Man's quippy attitude, not after what he and Green Goblin did to Black Cat a few weeks prior, and I really like how Pete gets serious for a moment here, wanting the villains to know that hey, that was not him who did that, that was the Goblin, and he operates differently and in this time actually operates alone. And really it's because of what happened with Black Cat is why he's kind of alone, since that was sort of like that divergence point that is really driving Peter and Harry apart. They are in this two different, very different things, and that's what's going to end up causing them becoming arch nemesises, I imagine. Mr. Negative reveals that he doesn't like doing things solo like Spider-Man and uses his powers to possess the hostages, leaving them to attack Spider-Man like a zombie horde as him and his goons escape. Now I'm sure this was on purpose, maybe it was just like a neat sly little reference, but it felt like David Messina did a reverse reference to the train scene in Spider-Man 2, you know, where all the people carry Spider-Man over their heads and lay him down in the train and, you know, take off his mask. They do that here where they like passing him between each other and they're ripping and tearing at his costume, which is, you know, just the spandex suit, it's not the Pictotech suit, so it just rips and pulls apart and Pete is forced to run before his identity is fully revealed. Pete eventually sneaks back home, but MJ is up waiting for him, and Hickman again does some just fantastic relationship stuff here. It's all really simple stuff too, it's just two people talking about what's been going on in their lives, having a civil discussion, and coming to a realistic and logical conclusion. It's insane how just simple it is to do, yet they won't allow the 616 Spider-Man to even come close to this sort of stuff because of silly mandates from higher-ups and editors, which is really weird because Spider-Man is meant to be that everyday guy, like what Stan Lee used to say, like everybody sees themselves in Spider-Man, everyone can be behind the mask, and everyone can have these type of realistic relationship talks, so I don't know why they are so against that sort of stuff in the 616 book. It's just so strange. So then when we get something like this from Hickman, who is allowed to do this sort of stuff, it stands out and it's just so much better and it's so much more relatable than whatever they're doing over in Amazing Spider-Man at the moment. Pete reveals to MJ that he's a little worse for wear now since someone could have gotten hurt unless he stepped in, and he thinks that he should take the beating rather than someone innocent because he can take it. MJ reveals that while she's kind of taking this all in her stride, stride, she can't help but feel the threat of violence is kind of starting to get to her a little bit, especially after seeing Peter like he is now. And she actually asks Peter, like, what does he think of this? Like, how, like, are they going to deal with this? And it's really interesting that she isn't just talking about his Spider-Maning either, she's talking about his job at the paper as well, which is where he's getting a lot of attention thanks to him doing all of the photos for these stories, and there's obviously that big expose article on Fisk, so there's a lot of eyes on the paper and Peter as well, and they could easily be attacked by Fisk from either his Spider-Man work or his work at the paper. Both of them talk it out, and they talk about how Pete is dealing with all of this fighting, which is something that Peter really isn't known for, and they come to the conclusion that MJ should be ready to run when and if the time comes, but she needs not worry since the heroing is something that Peter knows he was meant for, and he was meant to do this. Their moment is cut short because Peter remembers that he was meant to go and meet Ben, as it's an important day, so Peter needs to head back out as quick as he came. Across town, Fisk learns Mr. Negative just let Spider-Man go, but it's not without a good reason, as Martin saw that Spider-Man is a rather formidable opponent and didn't see the logic in fighting him and probably losing, and would rather retreat with information. And on top of that, Martin found out that his powers of persuasion won't actually work on the heroes since he is just as determined to stop them as they are to stop him. I really love Kraven's response in this. He's only in 2 panels in this book, and I really like how it kind of sets his character apart from the 616 Kraven, whereas here he just says they should just kill him and just be done with it, and kill him in any way you can, just as long as you're the last man standing. And that feels a little bit different from the Kraven we know, since that Kraven has somewhat got some honor in his battle against Spider-Man and other foes, but that's all gone from here, which is really interesting. He's just in it for the sheer, thrill of the kill, and as well, he has a little bit of revenge on his mind thanks to what Spider-Man and Green Goblin did to Black Cat. Black Cat, however, is still very much alive. Goblin did not kill him, however, he is now permanently wheelchair bound, and that calls into question his protection of his territory and if he can do it, and Black Cat makes it well known that his daughter Felicia Hardy will be taking over protection of his territory. The cracks in the Sinister Six begin to form thanks to this, as Fisk really lays down his law here, and it is Fisk's law here, as he proclaims that all of their territories are his, and the men all need to stop everything they are doing, stop any operations they have going in these territories, and just focus on killing Spider-Man so it doesn't ruin his kingdom that he has built. Peter meanwhile meets with Ben at the incident memorial, where he places flowers for May since it's been 1 year since the incident actually happened. We get a real fun reveal here as Ben asks to meet Peter a day before the actual memorial, which we saw in issue 1, since there wouldn't be many people around here now since they'll be coming the next day, so they can talk pretty freely, and Ben reveals that he actually knows that Peter is Spider-Man, having figured it out not long after he figured out who Green Goblin is. I really like that how this is done with Ben and Peter at May's memorial. It's like they're including her in spirit in this reveal through Ben, who is so proud of what Peter is doing as Spider-Man, but also very wary of what this means for him and his family. It's also interesting that I've never really realized how in this universe so many people know who Peter is, and Peter figures out that it's like about 7 people, including Ben, who know his secret, which means it's slowly starting to sort of seep out of the bottle. And Ben realizes this and implores Peter to actually try harder in hiding who he is, and in his own way tells him that with great power comes great responsibility. Hickman has built in this really awesome dichotomy here with the paths both Ben and Peter took. They both arrive at the same conclusion in very different ways. Obviously Ben, saw the evil in the world and took a stand against it and was forced out of the Bugle, and so he had to go and stand on his own, while Peter saw it and couldn't actually do anything about it, but was then gifted a chance to actually fight back. And he took that chance and wants to use it. It's such an interesting thing to explore that other Spider-Man canons cannot, because obviously Uncle Ben is dead. So it's exciting new territory that we've never seen before, and Hickman wraps up this first year with Pete and Ben is really cool. I really like that Ben now knows that Peter is Spider-Man. That's, you know, he's not trying to hide it like he used to with May. He figured it out all on his own. Although I always, you know, kind of subscribe to the idea that May kind of always knew that Peter was Spider-Man and just kind of kept her mouth shut, and just because of what he was doing and how proud she was of him. But I like that now Ben is kind of in on the secret, and what will that mean for the next year of Spider-Man comics? I'm really excited to find out. Pete is pulled away from their talk by Harry, who finally responds to his text and sends a black SUV for Peter. Now this feels really weird. This feels like a trap, and it's never really alluded to since the issue's about to end, but it feels like there's something going on here. Like maybe this is Harry turning, maybe this is some sort of trap by Black Cat or the Sinister Six or something to trap the Spider-Man, trap Peter or something. Very intrigued to see where that goes, since it feels completely off character for the Harry we've seen up until now, so I'm intrigued to see what that exactly means in the next issue. Before Peter leaves though, Ben imparts one final lesson, knowing that he's older and he's lived a good life and he's ready for whatever happens next. Basically, he's accepted that he's probably going to die at some point, and he's ready for that. And he wants to know if Peter has an idea of what's next for him. And interestingly, we actually get an answer from Peter. It's not something that's left lingering and will be sorted out later. Peter says plainly that he isn't ready, he doesn't know. And it's so interesting, since while Peter does seem to have most of his life in order, or like figured out, you know, he's got a family, he's got a wife, he's got a job, he's Spider-Man, you know, he's still very unsure of himself and what to do, and he's still figuring it all out. Like I imagine a lot of people his age or around his age are as well. Like they might seem like they've got it all figured out, but everyone is still learning something, and I think that's what makes a great Spider-Man comic. It's one where he learns some life lessons. It's a realistic life lesson that maybe even the reader can actually learn from as well, and that's what's really important, because Spider-Man is just a guy. He's just a regular guy. Anyone can be Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man issue 11 was another masterclass in character development and plot progression. I adored seeing Hickman's fully formed Spider-Man here really for the first time, and all of the development he's been doing with Peter and MJ's relationship, and even Peter and Ben's relationship, is just gold, and uncharted gold at that. It's just so well written, it feels real and logical, and like these are actual people in the story. They're not just things to move the plot forward, or like tools for another character's motivations or something. They all have their own character and development, and it's so cool. I can't wait to see how Hickman rounds out the first year of Ultimate Spider-Man next month, and what 2025 brings for the Ultimate Universe and for the Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.